Hey everybody, and welcome back. Well, as I mentioned, this is the first of 2 or 3 or whatever videos that are going to be more, workshop vlog than project. Actually, as far as projects go, maybe I should ask for some ideas. Bearing in mind, I don't want to do a road bike. It's just fraught with too many problems here. Alright, so, I got a comment from Robert in Australia who liked the snow, and he mentioned to me that it was 38 degrees where he was, centigrade. So, if you sort of take 2 or 3 weather related items, we're very similar, Robert. I'm sure you got blue sky. I've got beautiful blue sky with just a few little white fluffy clouds. I'm sure you've got sunshine. I've got bright sunshine out there on the snow, admittedly. You've got 38 degrees. This is where we part company a little bit. This morning it is -7. So we're only 45 degrees apart. Anyway, got this up here because our first bit of remedial work actually isn't going to be the Enfield. The Kickstart came with the bottom fold. I think I mentioned in the video that I was getting one that folded at the top. What I was thinking of was folded at the top of the knuckle, not folded at the top here. Like, hang on. Oh, it doesn't want to come off. Like the BSA one would, fold the top. So we've got to think how we're going to get that onto there. It's a pity the shafts aren't splined, but then these would be a metric spline, not a standard spline. So anyway, so we're going to do that because I thought we should try and get, this completely finished. But also I found another job I have to do on this. You see this towel here? When I was manoeuvring this to put it on here to do the Kickstart, I realised I'd never put steering stops on this. The original ones won't work, and I'd have to modify them just to... In fact, the steering stops did work, but they hardly allowed any steering. You may remember that, because of the width of the bottom of this casting here. The little nubs on the bottom yoke were hitting it so soon there was hardly any turn, so I had to cut them down a little bit to get it to swing, but it swings too much and it hits the tank. So we've got to make a steering stop. So I thought we'd do those things first before we move on to anything else. So that's it. I've got a blooming oil leak. I think it's from one of the hoses, but hey, it's BSA. It's an old BSA. Maybe I should take more time. Or they don't tend to leak from the joints. That's why I took so much time with that little cover for the sub. I find they often leak from there, and they'll leak from things like the joint for the pipes to go on. The later models have 2 little O-rings for the inlet and the outlet pipes. These just have a gasket. So anyway, things we have to live with. Alright, so let's lift this up, and I think we'll look at the Kickstart first. Right, so I've got the heating on. Well, I mean the heating's on all the time, but I have it turned down over the weekend while I'm not out here, so. Alright, I have put this on and popped the cotter pin in, and these marks here are sort of through the centre of that. So that's, if I cut this off, that's where this top is going to be. Now then, this actually would be the perfect size. It's a 5/8, or the metric equivalent of a 5/8 spline shaft. So I've actually run a 5/8 drill through it to take the splines off, just so we could play around with it. So if let me extend that a little bit. Oh, you'll note something else I forgot to buy, look, because again they don't have them on the later ones, so I never thought about it until I put the cover on. So if we put that on there like thusly, that is just nicely out the way of everything. See the top of it. And can you see the footrest? Yes, you can. We're all right for that. Okay, so this has got to be out a bit to clear there. So more or less, if that goes on the top of the BSA one, which is how I did the Triumph one, I basically cut that off there, and welded the one onto the other. So now, fortunately, when I made the one for the B44, as I say, I made a complete knuckle. I made one of those with the pivot point on it. So this is identical to that. Well, not quite identical, but near enough. So I have two of these to play around with. See, it's a 5/8 one the same. Because I was half thinking about only cutting part of this out. So that it almost, where's it gone? Goes on the front of that. I think the first thing we've got to do is cut this off, get it shaped up, and see how that other will fit onto the top of it. It's a pity they didn't put the cotter pin on the bottom, you know. Would have made things a lot easier. But having the cotter pin up on the top there, and the shaft won't go in upside down. So, alright, let me go and get this sawn off and dressed up. Right, well, cut the top off that. Top off and front off. And I've cut the bottom off that. That is going to go on there like that. Oh, actually, I've put a new and tighter cotter pin in here, and it's moved us round a little bit. I think we're still going to be alright. Let's have a look. Yeah, I think that is fine. That is going to go on there. Like that. So because the back slopes, there's going to be a nice big V for that. So I've just got to get this so it's V'd right down, and I can weld literally right from the centre. The root is going to be right down there, and we can build the whole thing up so it's going to be one complete. Because the thing you've got to remember about welding, it's not like gluing. We're not going to have that and then some form of adhesive and then this. The weld is going to become part of that and part of this, so it's going to be one solid piece of metal again. Alright, so let me make a couple of marks so that I know exactly where that goes. Then I'll tack it, and then we'll try it, and then we'll weld it up properly. So I've tacked that on, tacked it there, tacked it there, and that goes on there. Now as you see, it doesn't use the whole of that flat, so if this is the right position, I can use a cutting disc and cut in and make that a real V into there, so we get lots of weld in and it's nice and strong. So let me put this on here with its cotter pin to know exactly we've got clearance and everything, and I'll bring you back. Right, so that's on there nice and tight so it doesn't wobble. spark plug out so I can turn it over. But anyway, when that's on there with this little ball, it doesn't wobble on that either. So that is nice. It misses the silencer, and as we know, it misses that. So let me set to get this feed out properly, welded up tight. Then I think what we'll do is give it the bottom a little coat of silver paint, just so that it doesn't rust. Okay. Right, so that's that welded on there. And as I say, I cut right in deep there, so that's filled up. That's really welded to that. So I'm going to give it a quick coat of silver paint just so it doesn't rust. I've just bead blasted it, and then we can put it on. So there's that on there. So it's well clear the silencer. That's tucked in out of the way. Let's pull the clutch in. And it misses that nicely. Alright. Steering stops. Right, so there's a steering stop on these yokes. I had to grind them a little bit on the inside to clear this, but I also had to grind a little bit off the top because they only went to there before they caught on this. So they can go around almost, you can just see, till they basically disappear under there. Then that's touching the tank. So I only wanted a little bit out. Now I could put a little bit in there. Let's think, these are steel. This bottom yoke is steel. So what I'm going to do is put a piece just under there so that this comes down to catch them, but not here, further under. So they will still go underneath, but then they'll get stopped. Maybe, hang on. There, you can see perfectly now. Oops, sorry for that. I had to grind a bit off the inside and a bit off the top so that I could get enough steering lock, otherwise they would actually have stopped there. So what I'm going to do, as I say, is put a piece under here. We can drill it, tap it and bolt it to this big casting for the headstock, so that just, actually I can go a bit more at the top if I use different bolts. It's actually the bolt head that's hitting, so I can take it to there and then just change the bolts. So what I need is a piece to go under there, which I think I'm going to make out of something like that. So that'll be just thick enough under there, fasten to there, so that when that comes round it'll catch it. Bonk, like that. Okay, so I started grinding a little bit out. What I'm going to have to do is cut a piece out of this for it to go around this part to meet that. So let me fiddle on, and then when I'm closer to the shape I want, I'll show you it. Actually, we have a little change of plan. I was just checking to see where this would go, and I found that if I moved it round a little bit, it actually hits on, hang on. It actually hits on there. Like that, and that is just right. So what I'm going to do is this little rough piece here, I'm going to grind that out so that it's completely flat, and then we'll drill it on both sides, tap it, and we'll just bolt that on, and I think that will work fine. So let me get started on that. Right, so I started and I just had a very annoying little thing happen. So I ground a bit off there to flatten that out. I have to take a little bit more off actually. And I drilled this piece mark that, drill the hole. I could just, with the forks round, I can just get the drill in because the 7/32 bit is quite short. I didn't have to take everything off to do this. And then I could just fit the tap in, so I tapped it, went to screw this on, and oh God, I've gone in at an angle and it just hasn't cut any threads. So I thought, well, I wonder if I can put a bolt through, get a nut on the back. Actually, I can't. I'd have to put the bolt through this way with a little bit cut off the head. But when I got another 1/4 inch one out, this one had gone straight through these holes. This one wouldn't. So when I checked, somehow that's a 6mm, not a 1/4 inch. That had managed to get in with the 1/4 inch bolts. So there is a perfectly good thread in there. Alright. So I've just used the transfer punch to mark this. God, I can hardly see it. So let me punch that, drill it, tap it, and then we can put this thing on. Thought I'd show you, look, I can just get this in to drill a straight hole. But it takes me a while, so let me turn you off. So there that is, bolted on. Let me pull you out. We just nicely have a gap there. I could actually cut a little bit off these and move them in, although that actually keeps me away from that as well. See, the thing here is these grease tanks come out very quickly. The other ones I've made have been more sloped there. But anyway, at least we're not going to punch a hole in the fiberglass tank now. Alright, that's enough for today. Oh, I'll tell you what, let's see if the Kickstart works. Right then. So it'll be a little bit embarrassing if this snaps, won't it? But it shouldn't. You know, it's strange how tall this bike is. Move the compression. Come on now. Very good. All right. That doesn't look half bad, that Kickstart, does it? I would maybe liked it a little bit more around that way, but I couldn't actually do that because it had to be on the top of the... Well, I suppose I could have cut that at a little bit of an angle and welded it on, but as I say, it's nicely out the way. I can move around all over there. Very good. Alright, see you tomorrow. Well, good morning. I'm a bit late starting this morning because just as I was having my tea, the power went off for whatever reason. Flickered off, back on, off, back on. So I had to go out and start the generator up and connect that up, whatever. I have this, it stands outside, it has this great big cable, there's like an outside socket. I plug it into that, and then down in the basement next to the fuse box there's a sort of secondary fuse box, and all the circuits I want, things like the furnace and the water pump and that, go into that. the generator goes into that, the power from outside goes into that, and you can switch it from one to the other so that you're never in danger of having the outside power and the generator power on at the same time. It's very clever. So anyway, came out late. So I've got the Enfield up, took the wheel out, which isn't going to help with the work at all, but I'm hoping you can see there the let me get something long to point with. There's the end of the brake pedal, and there's the rod that goes up, and there is the master cylinder. Now, I don't know if you can see the angle it's at. The master cylinder is more or less following this tube, so that if you put the brake on really hard, it presses up and then it flicks over and sort of locks up. So what I need to do is get this to be pointing more like that. Alright, so let's go around and have a look at the other side. Actually, it's probably just as easy to see it from this side, so I needn't have taken that wheel out. Anyway, you can see the angle that that's at. And this push rod, I don't want to push it because I'm going to press the pads out and then I won't be able to get the thing. Well, I'll have to fiddle around. That pushes up, basically vertically. Now, I don't want to have to make a brand new brake pedal. It's a sort of modified brake pedal off a disc brake bike. So it's got the right fittings behind here and a pivot and everything. So what I've really got to do is move this. So instead of being in that plane, where's my point? Instead of being in that plane, I want it to be like that. Now I can't move it any further in, as you can see there. So it's got to come out a bit and be straightened. So that centre line has got to sort of go out a little bit and then straighten. Now, as I mentioned last week, the tapped part that the bolts go into is the master cylinder. As you can see, they're not bolted through that way into there. So let me take these bolts out and see if we can, what I'm hoping is I can somehow make a little mounting plate or something that will, you know, it's going to get a bit fussy, but it'll be bolted to the master cylinder and bolted to here. I don't think, we'll try. I'm hoping I can just swivel it on that one. But then I've still got to make something for here. Hang on. So I've taken the bottom bolt out and I've slackened that one. What would be nice would be if I could just do that like that. Now what's happening is, if you can see, but this isn't on a flat piece of plate. It's got a spacing piece, if you like. Fortunately, I bronzed them on. If I hadn't done that, things might have been a lot easier. So that, of course, is, as you can see, this is on the sort of centre line this way. So just as that sticks out this side of there, sticks out the other side. So that's what it's coming up against. So what I'm going to have to do, at the very least, is cut that off. Then if I do that, I might be able to swivel that out. Jeez. I don't know if it'll swivel out, if it needs to swivel out far enough. I can shorten this rod, it's adjustable. To get a little bit of plate that I can little bit of plate on the back. Oh, yeah, there's probably, if I cut that off, there's probably enough space to get a, but what's this face? I got one laid around. Oh, no, that's a bolt. Oh, I wonder where that bolt came from. I know where that bolt goes, because I've just put one in its place. Excuse me waffling here, but hang on. If I can take that off, you see they're very little heads. I might be able to get that in there with a nut on the back to bolt a little piece of plate on, and then, you know, it would only have to be this big with 2 1/4-inch holes in, and then the bolt coming through into that. All right, that sounds like a plan, doesn't it? That might be an easy job. I've got some of this green in a little touch-up thing, so how am I going to cut that off? I mean, I'll take this off, obviously. Probably get a hacksaw in there with a decent stroke. I keep meaning to get one of these pneumatic hacksaws, but I haven't. All right, let me... I know I'm in the way, but you'll just have to put up with it, you know. You can't have everything in life. Lorry. It's supposed to be mild this week, and then it's funny. I was just saying to Linda the other day, it's just like it's been, just like in the summer. Oh, I know where that bolt's come out of. It's come out of there, idiot. Particularly like when you're putting something on like a trowel. It'll be beautiful all week. You get to the weekend when you're off work and it's as miserable as sin, and then Monday morning when you go back to work, it's another nice week. Well, it's like that here. It was nice and mild last week, bitterly cold at the weekend. It's nice and mild this week. It's going to be bitterly cold at the weekend, and then it's back to being mild next week. So, take that off there. Put that out the way. Now then, I'm going to cut that off, and then make a little piece to come out here. Isn't that a shame? Look, it was all so prettily made, you know. And then I've got to move that bit of wood so I can move the pedal a bit more. We'll see what it's like. All right, but before that, I'm going to go and have something to eat and another cup of tea. See you shortly. Cut that off. Actually, I was able to get the angle grinder in with a nice new wheel. So I got that done. I put a bolt in just so I know how much the bolt sticks out there. So the next thing is to put that back on. Of course, I had a nasty moment when I was halfway through cutting the bottom off, thinking to myself, should I be cutting the bottom one off or the top one? But it is the bottom one. I was just thinking, you know, if I'm getting viewers in Australia, should I do a version of the videos in Strine? You can look that up. Right. Oh, that'll move out. Excuse my head. Oh yeah, that'll move out all the way to there. I think we're on a winner here, folks. Minor work. All right, let's see. First of all, we need that shortening. So we'll undo the little lock nut, he says. Oh! Screw the lock nut up. And that, you see, will screw into there. Wah, wah, wah. Should have put that there on first. Let me switch you off. Well, it seems as if I got this really wrong when I was first putting it on, because I've moved it over where I thought it was going, but I don't know whether you can see this. Because of the way it pivots, that's almost, it's sort of pushing it on that line. So that means moving the top out as well. The whole thing wants to be over there. Let me play around with this some more. Now I've cut the other spacer off, ground it flat, and I've put a piece of plate on the back. I think we're going to need it to be about, it's only going to go funnily enough, it's got to go about parallel with this tube but further out, and that gives it the chance to. Yep, I think that's about it. Let me get a pen. Right, I think we're going to have, let's see, that's up against its stop. Yeah, I think we're going to have one there. And one there. Right, so that's a rough location, but I'll mark this, I'll measure this whole space in and make sure they're right. So I'll have to, oh, hang about. We're also going to need some new spacing pieces. Three-eighths. So 3/8 long. Alright, let me go and do some drilling and stuff. So I've drilled that, and I've turned up a couple of little spacers. They've got to be slightly shouldered there because they've got to fit into the curve of that. But that's going to go on there like that. Okay, and that just nicely clears everything. But of course the thing is, I think I need longer bolts. Yeah, I do. And I've got a couple, I can't get them in at the back. So I'll have to take this off. Bolt that to the, oh God. I can't take this off and bolt that on first because this covers those. The only other thing to do, of course, is to thread the bolts all the way through here and put a nut on the back, which is slightly annoying, but it will work. Let's have a look. I put that on there. Of course, I've got a million
long 5mm bolts of various types, but not many 6mm ones. No, that's not going to be long enough. Let me look for some bolts. Alright, temporary fix to make sure everything works. As I say, I had lots of 5mm bolts, and of course a 5mm one just is a nice fit through 6mm. They've got a long unthreaded portion, so I put a couple of long 5mm bolts in so that I could bolt it all up tightly. Put this in. I think I could do with a longer rod there, but as you can see, that doesn't move out of line much. So I think that's good. So I'll take it all apart again, make this look nicer, and put some green paint on there, and then I'll get some longer 6mm bolts, and that will get done. Actually, I think I need to bleed this a bit. Oh no, oh no, that's all right now. Okay, so that'll be that jobbed. I can get some bolts on Friday and do them, so that'll be finished. So the GreeBSA jobs and that little job, which is now done, that will do me for this week in the workshop. All right, so next week we will start on making the new exhaust, well, the silencer on the Otter Triumph. Okay, so I'll see you then, and until then, you take care and enjoy yourselves.